3,713 losses. I may have gone too far this time. My highest loss count before this was Ghost of Tsushima's Normal Man Challenge of 1,728 losses. This certainly blew that one right out of the water and into deep space. After only tackling Yotei once, I knew I'd be in deep trouble trying this requested challenge, as I did not have the experience needed. Unlike my Normal Man Challenge, where I had a plethora of prior experience. Like the Normal Man Challenge, the Normal Woman Challenge entails single katana only, no other weapons allowed except I may throw other swords, which means no ghost weapons, assassinations, or bow use. No armor that's useful, no charms, no unreal abilities or use of spirit, no improving equipment, and I shut the wolf off so she's only in the hunts. But unlike the Normal Man Challenge, the Normal Woman Challenge also entails no damage whatsoever, so while I could endure environmental damage in Normal Man, any damage at all will fail me back to the last checkpoint. Plus, new skills are off limits, so old favorites like Perfect Parry or Rolling will be missing as well. I'm really gonna miss them. There are two distinct positive differences though. One, I don't have to 100% the game, I just gotta beat the story. Two, health does not increase between difficulties, so I'm playing on lethal difficulty and not hard. Oh, plus I can sneak around enemies as long as I don't try and assassinate them. Admittedly, I rarely use that privilege, and I stubbornly fight instead, no matter how stupid and costly it is. Says plenty that I didn't have to 100% the game and any DLC, but I still have thousands more losses though, right? Now that you have a pretty good idea of the rules, let's delve into what made this challenge the most brutal so far. Spoilers if that isn't obvious already. First things first, this challenge is more of a skill-based question of possibility, not a technical question of possibility. Meaning, can I beat the whole game without ever compromising these rules? No, absolutely not. As I proved in my Yotei katana only challenge, which had even less restrictions, there are many forced exceptions. For this one, 20 times where I had to either take forced damage like fighting the snake or Lord Saito, forced horse charges, or forced weapon use. Mainly a couple gun uses. The game gave me no other choice but for those things to happen. The real question is, when the game doesn't completely force me into a failure state, how possible, and more importantly, how brutal of an experience is it to win each encounter? Or how awkward will it be, such as when I refuse to use my howl to intimidate these thugs outside the inn? Time isn't frozen, it's raining. We're all really patient and are staring each other down. Resetting after the howl won't free me from this tutorial, but I can wait out their fear, minus the single smart coward who fled. This is still very early game, so most foes I'm not worried about at this point. But as this archer with his knife likes to prove, anyone could be a threat. Basically the same lesson from Ratatouille. While traveling to Saito's first known position, I come across the handiwork of a bear with a bounty on her head because of her murderous master. You know, there are some choices that are so obviously wrong that any sensible person would just not do them. Like fighting a Yotei bear, the true masters of combat in this land. I ignore that sensible part of me that screams to flee, and I seek out the bear, knowing she's probably more dangerous than Saito himself. I jumped from 8 losses to 37 losses in 5 minutes, proving that fear was pretty valid. She's so fast, and she's not interested in stopping much between swipes. I can't say for sure if in all that death, I learned the bear's pattern at last, or I just got lucky in the end. There was definitely some luck. Dodge 2 attacks in a row, slice once, and repeat. Death would have claimed me again when I was striking at her at the same time she attacked, only barely surviving as that strike happened to be the lethal one. Sleep well, furry master of murder. You won't be alone, as her human buddy rushes out of the woods and strikes me down immediately. I'm thanking every deity known to man when I return to life, but the bear doesn't, allowing me to reunite her friend with her in the afterlife. That bear was more of a horror story than the actual horror story that is the ghost general of the Spider Lily armor. His home is nearby, so I might as well vanquish this ghost. He doesn't have any surprises up his sleeve, with pretty basic sword work and a Kusarigama as his backup weapon. A weapon that I always love to see, because it's basically free kills to me with how easy it is to normally dodge and work around, even if my sword struggles to break its block. I love how in the last game, whenever I looked into anything supernatural, it proved to just be people. But this guy really was a supernatural ghost, right? How else did he control the fog that cleared up the moment he was gone? A fog machine? It's possible, I suppose. By the time I reach Saito's training grounds, I've only struggled with the bear as of yet. This would be the first location, of far too many, that would strive to teach me the value of quitting. If I wanted to reach Saito with minimum trouble, I'd have stuck to sneaking through the tall grass and avoided engaging the many soldiers that line the path. That's perfectly acceptable by the rules, but I refuse to be sensible. Sure, a nice deal of the enemy are poorly trained and poorly armored, but enough are armored commanders with better weapons, a brute with far more reach than I like without my roll to save me, and fire archers that can prick my health just by firing an arrow at me while I'm in the tall grass. If I don't want to be in the tall grass and risk such a stupid defeat, I have to push forward, which means I gain the attention of even more enemies, pushing the odds ever more in their favor. No surprise I jumped to 111 losses total then. The brute's weakness is his lack of attack variety and general slowness, so he can be killed, but the numbers always overwhelm me eventually. It's funny looking back, the majority of these foes were really weak, and where I was skill level by the end of the game would make this fight a laugh. But for then, I was really struggling to keep up. My parry skills were most definitely tested, but the real reason I pulled through? Luck. Luck that I don't attract every group at once, and multiple throwable weapons dropped from enemies back to back, allowing me to get a nice deal of easy kills. Combined with my strategy to stay close to the bridge, away from the grass, and stay highly defensive so I can whittle them down until I'm clear to pass. Right into another large group that deals me another 40 losses. You know growth has been achieved when you can look back with bewilderment at how you ever struggled in a previous area. I simply didn't know the spear combos and I was much too jumpy, dodging far too much, more worried about getting hit than taking the time to really understand their combos. Past me found a different way to win than growth though, using the nearby roof to slow down how quickly they can all reach and engage me, with a prioritization on the swordsmen who all fight with full dual level abilities and speed. That strategy allowed me to pull through, but I'd only be able to pull ahead with tricks like this for so long. Just for my assassination to fail on Saito. Which works for the challenge, but wow, that would have been really handy to end it all now. Especially since Saito kills me before I can even switch from dual blade to single blade. Then before I know it, another 90 losses at his blood-stained hands as I struggle to understand the timing of his polearm. It's fitting that this is a training camp, because I'm sure getting a lot of it. His spin attack is the only one I can reliably always parry. The rest are pretty back and forth, especially his delayed feint attacks. I always struggle against those. I appreciate Saito though. He's the first enemy that forces me to improve or die. Well, actually, improve as I die, but still. This is a battle of practice even if Saito doesn't know it. I may lose, but every time I drop, I'm a step closer to understanding him enough to be victorious. I try to suppress my instinct to dodge where I can, except for the first of every combo, so I don't have to rely on reaction speed, since most of his attacks are parryable.
Put down that stick. Draw your katana.
That would not be fair to you, and would belittle me as a warrior.
Oh, thank God he doesn't listen to me. Atsu might forget every loss and think she has a chance against his sword, but I'm nowhere near that arrogant. A huge sigh of relief escapes me as the battle ends suddenly when the samurai's attack interrupts us, letting Saito go so he can pummel me another time. I'll be waiting, ready to endure and learn. Hopefully. Eventually. 200 losses and over 2 hours taking this camp, I can only hope our next encounter won't be as costly. But somehow, I doubt it. Tragically, taking the camp means I've upgraded my own real armor to actually be worthwhile. Only armor I have right now that does nothing for me is now the snake armor. As disgusted as I am to wear his old, filthy, soiled clothes, it's my only choice. I didn't need to wear the mask, but I'm hoping the intimidation factor of a broken, bloody mask will give me a slight advantage in the fights to come. It definitely doesn't, and my losses rack up quick as I cut my way through Saito's camps. It's a little hard to be intimidating when I sprint right into a campfire, or I whack torches to fall on me while fighting. A surprising and upsetting common occurrence throughout our story. But hey, in all this practice, I do feel pretty confident to fight spear units, discovering that they have some of the most predictable moves. See what happens when I take the time to actually learn the moves, and not simply panic dodge away from them? Crazy. Now in the north, I'm given a quick reminder that skilled swordsmen are truly the worst, with how oppressively fast they are, often cutting in while I'm trying to counterattack their friends. Just please wait your turn. They must be prioritized at all costs. Well, minus the cost of damage, of course. Any throwable blades I find have a new favorite target. Reaching the Red Crane Inn to get intel on where the Kitsune is, I have nothing to do but beat some manners into rowdy samurai. Unfortunately, deflecting their fists proves harder than actual weapons. I can block forever, but that doesn't get me anywhere. I learned quickly that if I try to attack without deflecting, I'm playing with luck, which I don't have much of, so if I'm going to hit without getting hit myself, slow and steady it is. Good thing Oyuki, my new friend, blocks a blow for me whether she even notices or not. I don't think she does. Joining with Oyuki, we tail some Nine Tails thugs, and I learned 2 valuable lessons. 1. Do not try to chase them or they will instantly blind bomb you for minuscule damage. And 2. These guys have horrendous perception skills. To be fair, if I lived back then and didn't have my glasses, this would be me as well, as I too have horrendous eyesight. Right after I uncover the first Nine Tails base, I once again get demolished. This time for 50 losses. I cleared the whole camp without issue until the end, where this particular group of 4 is the perfect combination to kill me. 3 of the enemies I haven't experienced much in this challenge, and none are particularly difficult individually, but it really didn't work out here. Honestly, I think the main reason I kept losing this fight is because I was exhausted, and you know how it is when you say you just gotta beat this one fight and you can go to sleep. That fight suddenly becomes the hardest fight known to man. Ain't that just the way? Once I beat the fight, got some rest, and I returned, navigating through the Kitsune's defenses wasn't particularly difficult, making it easy to get to him before the samurai. I would really appreciate it if they aimed their cannon fire a little better though. The Kitsune really has an issue with how much I've mocked how bad of a fighter he is, along with how little I think of his weapon choice. So he's not interested in letting me fight at all, killing me a few times right off. But once I remember nearly every move he has can be dodged to the side quite easily, he can't hold against me. The only problem is his cheap poison kunai throw is another bit of force damage. You know, I wouldn't have such an issue with Oyuki being the true prior Kitsune if she had bothered to help me fight at all before now. Secret identities are good and well, but Atsu got killed in numerous realities because Oyuki pretended to be defenseless. I'm not even dueling her because of her part in Atsu's family's murder, but because of my own looping demise. Following a known sword thief into an isolated area so I can get ambushed by his team of killers may not be my smartest move. And it does get me killed. 10 times. But, on the other hand, death can't keep me. It's never my time yet. But it most certainly can keep all these guys. If I kill everyone but their leader, and then die, none of them respawn, which works for me. Imagine dying and staying dead. Not very main character energy of them. Though it's not very main character energy of me to immediately follow that win up with bumbling right into a trap. But hey, I kill everyone who sets the trap without trouble. So maybe it is actually. Heading further north, I struggle to free this village. But not due to the majority of foes, as they're only there to slow me down and hone my skills. It's the 2 swordsman leaders that are a real struggle, and I always reach them last, which is the worst, since losing resets the whole place. They don't even have a particularly difficult moveset. It's simply that I still haven't yet mastered prioritizing parrying and combo learning over panic dodging. Well that, and they felt pretty fast, but looking back, it's hard to feel that way after the much faster obstacles that awaited me later on. Sometimes you don't have to be faster than me, just be tricky enough, such as the Nine-Tail shield-wielding leaders, if they have friends, as it throws me off enough with the delayed speed of their attacks. This problem traps me at a Nine-Tails hideout for a while more, but I certainly feel very ready for brutes from now on. All those losses, only for me to win, and realize the reward is an altar of reflection to learn skills. Grand. Well, since I can't fast travel out, I'll go ahead and just put the skill in a weapon I can't use, so it means nothing. Deciding that I want out of this gross outfit, I take the time to track down the very easily obtained Crimson Kimono, but I'm saddened to see it also reduces how easy I am to be detected. Makes sense when the entire legend is about how invisible it makes the wearer. I did not think that through. New plan then. Heading back to where beautiful color exists, oh how I missed it with all the snow I've been through, I seek out the Dragonfly armor, an archer-specific armor, which means it's only for the aesthetic, and not for any value it can give me. I can only get it if I best plenty of Ronin, which doesn't provide any problem, but the group of leaders at the end pummel me relentlessly. Still, all this practice does me good and improves my parry skills enough for me to obtain victory. Now I can shed my snakeskin and wear something a bit more my style. It might be a little much. Maybe just the suit. Training with Oyuki, we learned last challenge that a smoke bomb must be used at this point, but can just be waited out so it means nothing. The assassination that leads into the smoke bomb though, that's a no-no this time around, but also unavoidable. Really sucks extra cause I keep losing and having to do it over and over. Poor guy here must really be rooting for me to win by the end so he doesn't have to die again. Smoke bombs wouldn't stop causing me trouble quite yet, but this time not in my own hands. The corridor leading to the Kitsune, that's where the true evil of this challenge awaits. At least, the first true big evil. Of all the enemies to stand off against, this brute is the only one that can trip me up in how fast he is. No other enemy type worries me in a standoff, but of course, he's the one to always start this fight. Of the 200 plus losses in this tunnel alone, he's probably responsible for 40 to 50 of them. I even stare at his foot to know the timing, and I still am too slow way too much. This room would be tough enough with how many enemies want to kill me and how little Oyuki helps me, but add in the fact that after I kill anyone once the standoff is over, 2 smoke bombs will lock onto me and deal minor damage if they land even remotely close. The radius is oddly large. Even if I'm all the way on the other side of the room against the door, they can still hit because these shinobi are all masters of the long throw. Murder is frankly wasted on them. Get them into sports now. They can be avoided if I stay 3/4 of the way, kill an enemy, then book it to the end. That usually causes them to miss the first throws. Not always, usually. Especially if I get stuck even a little, I'm gonna get hit. As more enemies drop down to join the fight, if 2 more of them die, 2 more smoke bombs come flying in. These are near impossible to dodge outside of luck as they're thrown from the middle enemies. No matter where I am in the room, they can hit me, so I just have to hope they will hit their own platforms or miss as I run. 1 more kill will trigger 3 smoke bombs that can only be avoided through luck combined with running right at them from the other side where I entered the room. All this while trying to make sure I don't get hit by any other means as well. Who decided smoke bombs needed to deal damage at all and have lock on? But only for this one room, because the developers very specifically hate me, Shenanaloon, and knew I'd try this challenge. I'm guessing in another challenge I just shoot the throwers first if that's possible to avoid damage, but I don't have that option, so I have to rely on luck. And also making sure Yuki doesn't kill anyone when I'm not positioned properly. So really, nearly all of this is luck. In the end, I do accept the damage taken as much as I wish otherwise. There's too much luck involved, and frankly, this final attempt is actually what really good luck looks like, as the second and third waves of enemies end up throwing their smoke bombs at the exact same time, with only 2 of the 5 smoke bombs hitting. That has never happened where they do that, and I doubt my luck will hold for them to do it again, so I'll set the minimum losses I can manage and press on towards the Kitsune. And yes, theoretically, if you're extremely lucky, all 7 of the smoke bombs might miss you, but I don't have that kind of luck. Don't worry, for those that don't like that outcome, my suffering is only now starting to ramp up. The new Kitsune? He's one obnoxious foe. Normally, he'd be easy to tank through, but with how long it takes to get his health down, he's got plenty of opportunity to fight back. When you can dodge to the side on most attacks, and plenty are simple to parry, he shouldn't be too much trouble. But in practice, it doesn't always work out. It really doesn't help that I took a 3-week break doing other challenges right before this boss fight. Not my smartest timing. After the first blade lock, he drops a smoke bomb that doesn't do any damage. But between every other forced blade lock, he will drop 2 smoke bombs that inflict minimum damage. I never even realized last run that he dealt damage through them, and there doesn't seem to be a way to avoid it. Trying to make sure I'm too far from his smoke bomb doesn't seem to work since its radius is quite great, and even if it wasn't, he insists upon sticking close, meaning 6 smoke bomb force damage moments occur in this duel alone. Between that and me getting sloppy at points with the timing, I'm stuck fighting this first phase for 80 tries. Well, that's what I get for mocking him so much, I suppose. Once it's done though, and the Kitsune sprints away for his second phase, Oyuki and I join forces to easily finish the upstart in 1 try. Without his smoke bombs to throw me off, he doesn't even stand a shadow of a chance. 5 hours and hundreds of losses since I started this mission, I can finally wipe the Kitsune off my list. Whoever decided smoke bombs do damage, you're on my list. Can you believe we still have thousands more losses to go? I'm glad younger me couldn't see how bad it'd get, or who knows if I would have continued. Before I leave this snowy land, I make sure to bury a couple dozen of the Ninetails in order to free the farmers from their terror, and then I head west to extinguish the Oni raiders. Do not believe that the Kitsune is special for beating me 80 times. He's definitely not. This Oni raider mini-boss proves that when he beats me nearly 70 times, as I just can't keep up with the parries needed to keep his blade out of my chest. See, Kitsune? This guy doesn't need a skillless smoke bomb to win his fights for him. I don't think mocking a dead guy's very effective, but it's all I got right now. The major concern is whenever he lights up his blade, I have to parry it, but if it's unlit, I can simply block. Being aggressive and not letting up will minimize the chances he has to flame on, and give me a chance to learn his parry timings without there being a lethal consequence for not parrying. His 5-hit combo moves faster than I can keep up with, and too often I end up in the dirt anyway. Hold up, I made sure he can't use fire, so I can safely block if needed, and yet I'm not taking advantage of that, I just keep trying to parry. Tisk tisk. Holding block means no more raider, and the way is clear to enter the plains where hundreds more raiders await to test me. Yay! Or, I can wait around, ignore any test for me, and watch as Ina the bomb maker bombs the raiders to hell. I at least act as bait to reduce the odds the raiders will move out of range, so it's still teamwork. Just more of a group project where one person does 90% and the other does 10%. Everyone loves the person who does the bare minimum work, right? Right? You know who no one is fond of, though? The guy who refuses to share. Like this Ronin looting these raider bodies with a threat of death for anyone who tries to loot them too. Do I gain any value from what's on these men? No, I can't improve myself after all. Will I still fight this man to the death over them? Yes. It's the principle of the thing. My lack of principles, that is. I really struggled with that Oni Raider mini-boss just a short while ago, so it doesn't bring a smile to my face chasing down Mad Goro. Crazy here fights very similarly, but ups the difficulty even more. He throws in a couple added moves the Raider lacked, but I still must strive to make sure he has Flame Blades a minimum amount. Over 40 losses proves that's not enough, as I once again struggle to get the rhythm down. Of course, whenever I get the moves mostly etched into my mind, Goro whips out his sword and torch so I don't get comfortable. In fact, I am so uncomfy facing that sword-torch combo that I realize it's smarter to keep my distance by running, while Jubei slows Goro down with his bow until Goro switches weapons back and I can put my practice to use. I'm carving these fights into my mind, but it's coming at quite a high death count. I'm at 946 losses already as of now, and my morale has fallen to an all-time low. I feel tempted to quit here. Every loss felt like I wasn't learning anything, and improvement eluded me. Maybe if I started over with easier challenges, I'd learn better, and could try this challenge again in the future. But the side of me that felt it would waste all the losses and hours I've already put in, won out, and instead I chose to take a small break. A wise idea a break is, but instead of a small break, I accidentally take an almost 6-month-long break as I work on other challenges. Mainly, my Spidey no damage run. That is a fantastic way to make me as rusty as possible, ruining so much of the practice I had to get this far. I even had to go over the controls to remember what my moveset is. If my odds looked bad before, they're abysmal now. I decided the best way to deal with my rust is by burning it off in a trial by fire. The nearby garrison would do. 47 losses in order to clear the fort, with many of these losses being something I like to think 6 months ago I would have avoided. Maybe not, but I'm gonna believe in younger me. Those curved, fiery blades never stop being a problem, but all this practice makes me feel like some of that rust has been burned away, along with most of my skin, but that's the price of growth sometimes. Feels like more times than not in my case though. My time in that Spider-Man true no damage run had really helped train the idea of focusing on growth over failure avoidance, and so now I'm far less worried about losing in the process of training. Which is great, because we all know I have so many more defeats ahead of me. It's time to drown my sorrows in the blood of wolf hunters. Throw in some Ronin for good measure as well. Since I'm only experiencing minor trouble in combat now, the universe must make the blood spilling actively painful for me by forcing me to use explosives to defend the samurai camp from the raiders. And did I say I was only experiencing minor trouble in combat? Did the game hear that right? You'd think I'd know better than to say something like that by now. As punishment, I jump up dozens and dozens and dozens of losses trying to take this one random raider encampment. Completely unnecessary and extremely tough, causing me to focus on different challenges for yet another week. But I always return to try again. The real problem, per usual, is my inability to keep up with the one parry-focused fiery 5-hit combo used by the curved weapon users. I can handle most other combos the raiders toss my way, but that single combo almost always floors me. My best way to circumvent the problem is simply to run away until the fire burns out, and I have the safest opportunity to strike back. That fleeing and so much bloody practice is what allows me to conquer this camp. 1,123 losses as of now. Between that camp and rescuing Mad Goro from bounty hunters, I'm given a very unnecessary reminder why I have a loathing for fire when my primary requirement is to win without being hurt. All this grass makes me such an easy target, especially when I can't roll from it. That's one way to train me to pay attention to where I'm standing at all times. Deciding I would like to switch up my deaths from raiders to deaths in a proper duel, I hunt down the Undying Samurai. With a title like that, I certainly hope he can teach me a thing or two. When I stumble across a bear guarding the first chime to his location, I fear that my hunt ends here. But it is a welcome surprise to find the bear not as lethal as its predecessors. Still lethal, but a few maulings is a big leap compared to dozens. As for the samurai I seek, I'm both glad to see how effectively I can parry the majority of his attacks, fearing none of them, but also disheartened that I still fall 43 times as I fail to perfect my defense against him. There may be far more deaths than I'd like, but it is nice to see I'm not so worried about many of the combos I used to struggle with. Armor is of course worthless to me, but the experience is invaluable. But now, it is time for the next member of the Yotei 6, the Oni. He sure is an imposing one. The Oni doesn't need to bother with a tunnel of smoke bombs or any gimmick like that to inflict pain on me. His hefty blade will more than suffice. But you know something? I love every second of it. It doesn't matter that he has 2 health bars. It doesn't matter that his sword thrust is a blink and you die kind of move, and it doesn't matter that he likes to fling fire around the map to wall me in. Well, that part does matter a little bit, but still, none of it detracts from the fun of his fight. 194 losses to him. Honestly, not nearly as much as I thought I'd lose to him, and I quite enjoyed the whole fight. Why? Because I felt I improved. That's what I care about the most. I refused to fight to win. I fought to learn, and I did learn. With a sword made of wet clay, doing minimal damage, I have all the time in the world to see the same combos again, and again, and again, and oh look! There it is, again! It doesn't matter how fast the Oni is and how many swings he takes at me, I can always get back up and try again. He won't get that luxury more than once. His parry timings feel rather forgiving, as many moves reward the successful parry the moment the blade comes at you. Even if it doesn't, that means I have more time to respond and get ready for that delayed strike. I do only go for one heavy counter strike per combo of his, as I can't risk a deflection counterattack. Being close to him when he strikes is a really bad idea after all. The more room between us, the more time I have to respond, which is pretty vital against his unblockable swirl attack. Getting the hang of his combos gets me victory over his first health bar after 74 losses. But the next 120 losses are going to burn those combos into my brain, as his flame blade means I have to land those parries as consistently as possible. Good news is that he always starts the fight with the exact same combo, so I have a great heads up on what's coming at me first. It doesn't mean I always succeed at parrying it, but it gets easier every go. My favorite thing is that he, like many other bosses, tries to use a disarming strike on me, and that means free hits for me if I can land the disarm strike first. I don't have the ability to actually disarm him, but I'm not trying to. The moment I see the gold glint, I go for the sheath strike, and that will break his block, allowing me 4 light attacks while he's stunned. That's usually the only time I deal in light attacks. The rest of the time I stick to heavy strikes and parries to break through his block. If I went for heavy and light attacks while he's stunned, he recovers a lot faster, and it's not as effective. His most worrisome attack is when he flings 2 lines of fire on either side of me, so I have to be extra cautious about pushing him too hard in those directions until the fire has dissipated. I'm not as worried about his lightning fast thrust, simply because I'm usually dead before I can worry about it. I land that parry barely more than I fail it, but it sure does keep me on the edge of my seat. I find it sort of funny how my final 2 losses to him were pretty early in the fight, showing that even if I know his combos really well, it doesn't change how simple it can be to fail. His final attempt to ward me off fails not only because I can keep up with his combos much easier by now, plus keep track of my positioning so I don't step in his fire, but largely it fails because he keeps trying for disarm attacks. My favorite. One final desperate thrust that I parry and punish, and that's it for the Oni. Only enough room for one legend in this story. That finishes Chapter 1, providing me with a boost of confidence, but I would not feel that way if I had a clue quite how difficult things were soon to become. After taking a small break, breaking the skulls of bounty targets, I head into Chapter 2 as full-out war breaks out. Attacking the first encampment I came across, I realized I had a new major threat. Guns. Those ranged weapons raining down hellfire would always be too much for me without any ranged weapons of my own to use back, or a way to avoid the bullets apart from being behind a barrier. So the best option is to stick to those gunmen like they're the only person I know at a party, so they could never let loose a volley of shots, because if they ever did, it would be time to get up close and personal with the dirt. But with so many armored and skilled allies backing them up, often multiple commanders amongst them, my odds had become abysmal. Actually, we already covered that my odds have been abysmal, so they're abysmal cubed by now. Even if I did manage to outplay each enemy while maintaining closeness to those gunmen, it would be all for naught if someone else in the camp killed me, resetting everything back to start. But as I watched my loss counter tick ever closer to that 1500 loss mark, it finally came to me.
I have an idea.
Really? What is it?
Let's leave!
See, it's super rare, but sometimes I do have the sense to quit. That just means different dirt for me to bleed out in. I really think I'd like to go back to the old dirt though, because what awaits me in this suicidal charge against waves of gunmen, rockets, and commander swordsmen is nothing but agony. Who decided the rockets at the very start of the charge, before I even have control, need to land randomly? Did no one test to make sure they wouldn't land directly on my head? Maybe most don't have the level of luck that I have. But to be fair, most aren't stuck here for over 49 losses, since I can't roll out of these volleys. All this for the dragon who is bound to escape anyway. Fun. So friends, this is it. When I had gone through that gate into Chapter 2, I had unknowingly entered Tartarus. This relentless charge against volleys of gunfire, pure hellfire raining down and covering me with smoke, ash, and pain, is the nice side of Tartarus. We'll be on the bad side quite soon. Just gotta take it real slow and steady. Slow and steady. One enemy at a time, one step at a time. Even though I know every step makes me descend further into the madness, I must endure. I will. There's always worse threats awaiting me, such as the Spider's men. We need him if we're going to lure out his much more capable brother, the dragon, but trying to capture the spider once again highlights that every step I take is soaked in my own blood. By now, every enemy is a capable fighter. Fast, deadly, with a decent variety of combos, and worst of all, not quick to die to my paper blade. I can't boast the same to their weapons. Oyuki might not provide much aid in the killing department, but she makes for an invulnerable distraction, so I'm glad for her company in these gardens. There's quite a few foes, and while it doesn't take me long to understand each individual's moveset, it does take me quite a while to cut everyone down, as it only takes one enemy to land one strike to reset me. I grew used to killing the same foes again and again. I never do get their names though. Shame. I hold on to the fact that every checkpoint is my lifeline, a step I take that can't be reclaimed by the enemy no matter how many more times they kill me. My main joy is whenever luck is in my favor and an enemy drops a throwable sword, as even one of them can make a vital difference as it severs the vitals of an unlucky foe. By the time I reach the spider himself, I'm exhausted from all the blood I've shed, but I hope that the spider being surrounded by the weakest enemies in the game means it won't be my own blood spilled here. Just in case though, I learn how to circumvent the ghost stance forced upon me by sprinting away from all the frightened faces. That will be forced upon me every time I reset here, so might as well learn how to get rid of it ASAP, right? Can't hurt. While I wish I'd have no need of that tip, it does come in handy over the next 50 minutes I battled in this courtyard. The biggest reason I'm here for so long isn't the deaths, though they're definitely a contributing factor, no doubt, but really how little opportunity I get to strike at the spider. His men keep attacking, and while they're easy to parry and put down, they keep popping back up. Oyuki is watching the way in and out, so how are more reinforcements constantly showing up? Maybe these guys aren't dying after all, and simply getting knocked down for a little. It's possible with how dull my blade is. My best chance to win, and exactly why I do win, is the dropping of throwable swords. They all need to be resheathed, preferably in the spider's chest. With so many enemies dropping, that means plenty of opportunity for throwing. I just gotta be sure I hit that particular psycho and not one of his minions crowding me. But unbeknownst to me, at the time, winning this engagement and capturing the spider unlocks the lethal plus difficulty for me. I did all that to lure out the spider's brother, and boy am I going to regret that ill-thought-out decision. Whatever I thought was difficult before is nothing in comparison to the boss I face now. The challenge breaker, the soul crusher, the fire spitter that is the dragon. You want to know why this challenge took me so long? You want to know why it has that insane amount of losses? You're looking at the primary culprit right here. Well, behind myself, I suppose. I do have to bear responsibility for my own skill set after all. I came into this fight at 1,630 losses, and with an ember of hope that I'd be leaving after a few dozen, maybe a couple hundred losses. How quickly that hope would be extinguished and the ashes stomped on. The duel does start off fun, when I'm not shot immediately, that is. His sword strikes are fast, but Oni has prepped me to be ready to parry out the gate. Just like Oni, he starts the same every time, with first his brother opening fire, something easily sidestepped, then following up with his own pistol shot, also easily sidestepped. Just don't pause at the beginning of the fight, or you're bound to be shot upon leaving the pause menu. A key lesson that will haunt me throughout the fight is learning to commit to a heavy strike or not. Why? Because often, if I try for a heavy strike when Dragon is attacking, I might immediately switch to blocking as I realize my mistake. That switch can cause the Dragon to at first stop his attack to try and block, but instantly realize I'm not committing, so he goes for a different attack. This all happens so rapidly that I massively lower my chances of reacting fast enough to the new attack, causing numerous losses. But that's not the real issue with the Dragon fight. The real issue lies in what happens when you hurt him enough to trigger his second blade lock with you. Upon breaking the lock, he will switch to his polearm and go for his pistol. Still, not a difficult moment to predict because he will always do it unless he's shoved against a wall and can't make the distance, in which case he will try for one sword combo. Either way, he follows that first attack up by calling in a Bohia strike on my position. It's easy to move out of, but it always means if he doesn't have his polearm out, he's switching to it now, and he will open fire. He has to. That's the crucial moment, and one I must get used to losing to. Even though I know that's the move that he has to do, that quick draw is so insanely fast with minimum movement that I almost always lose to it. I checked it in editing to see how long I have to respond to it. When he has his sword, I can respond to it because it's about 3/4 of a second and will only kill me if I dodge too soon. But when he's holding that Naginata, that quick draw drops down to half a second. Half a second! That's how much time exists between him reaching for his gun to when the bullet hits me. That is not enough time for me to respond. Especially since if I dodge even a fraction of a second early, he will hit me. So many times. It is ridiculous. I've never had an enemy move that was a pure get faster reaction times or you're not getting past this moment. There's always been another solution. Not this time. If the challenge didn't restrict my armor, I'd have gone to find the bullet deflecting armor and that would have saved me. Or the use of Spirit to Heavenly Slash to dodge gunfire, like in my first challenge. Or hell, I assume the roll is better at dodging than this sidestep. Whatever the case, other solutions are locked off from me. Spamming dodge is near certain death. Trying to attack him so he won't switch weapons or go for the pistol won't work. He'll either deflect me and then shoot me, or just go for the pistol once I'm done attacking him. What's worse is after he goes for that pistol for the first time when he has his polearm out, as long as he has his polearm out, even if you're at point blank range, he can go for that quick draw whenever he pleases, as many times as he pleases. Oh great, I got lucky and dodged him. Bet I can't do it twice in a row, he says. He's right. I can't. I tried to overcome the timing by counting carefully whenever the rocket would land, or whenever he'd call for it to fire, to see if it was a fixed time before he'd go for his gun. It is not, and I had very mixed results. Too unreliable to have a chance of winning with how often he'd do this move. Even worse, if I do get lucky and survive his gunshot once or twice, he always has the chance of attacking me outright instead of going for his gun immediately and then whipping the gun out mid-combo. I don't think he's supposed to be able to do that, but he loves to. I thought dodging him was nightmarish enough, but it is great to see it can always be worse. My next best hope is to suppress my panic dodge so I don't dodge early, but that's easier said than done, and even when I do, my reaction speed isn't up to the task. After 220 losses and 4 hours with zero hope on the horizon, my beloved guinea pig Grundy passed away suddenly. Nothing like a personal loss to break any wish to continue in anything. So I made a call that if I made it to 2,000 losses total, which was 150 losses away, I'd save, leave, and put this challenge on the shelf for another day. 4 hours that flew right by, and I hit 2,000 easy. And yet, I didn't quit. I should have. A smarter person would have. Hell, a smarter person wouldn't have begun this challenge. But I have a weakness and a strength in one. If I see even an iota of hope, I latch onto it with all I have. Which means that every time I successfully dodged his gunshot, every time I got him a little lower in health than ever before, that gave me just enough belief that I could win if I keep going, even if I followed it up with hundreds more miserable failures. Which I did. Hundreds and hundreds. Not all through the gunshot even. A decent amount to his blade as I got overly comfortable and took those combos for granted, seeking to only rush through them. His polearm got the occasional hit too, as whenever it was out, I was too on edge for that quick draw, and it took me a long time to relearn what it could do, as it had been over half a year since I fought the dragon's father. But he wasn't much of a fan of using his polearm in combat, beyond a couple combos usually, before switching back to his sword, something I was always relieved to see. He only carries that Naginata solely to shoot me faster, I'm convinced. But the biggest trouble is discovering that even if I can dodge that pistol long enough to get him to his next blade lock, my trouble will only double from there. This time when he calls in the rocket, instead of going for his pistol, he will kick the explosive at me, and that seals my death. I can't roll away, I can't kick it back at him, but I do have a solution. Run. Sprint away the moment I can, and if he's on the edge of the arena, the explosion won't hit me. If he's in the middle, I'm dead, since I won't be able to gain enough distance. What happens though when I find myself across the arena from him? Of course, the only thing that makes sense. Gunshots. Which means death catches up to me almost every time anyway. I can dodge it, true, but more times than not, I'll find myself bleeding out on the ground, again, and again, and again. As I neared 700 losses, I began to wonder once again, should I quit? Was this worth it? Was it even possible with my reflexes? Wouldn't it make more sense to save, beat the rest of the game, and do a new game plus for a different challenge? I could always return in the future if I ever got faster. But even if it is a logical fallacy, so they say, I still felt like I'd be wasting all the effort I had already put in. All the practice, all the times I clicked try again. Whatever qualities you embody as a person, when you act against those qualities, it feels wrong. For me personally, one of my core qualities is my ability to persevere. I continue because I must continue. I get back up every time because I don't want to be a person that doesn't. Running has always been my favorite form of exercise because I always held on to the idea that I just had to focus on the next step in the next, no matter what. I applied that idea to everything, and it's what keeps me going. I didn't want the dragon to truly beat me. I knew I could beat this challenge. I felt it was possible. I had gotten closer and closer after all. I knew I could do this because I had dodged his shot hundreds of times. I've also died to it hundreds more, but the potential was there. I simply had to make it count. If I had quit the challenge in the Kitsune's tunnel, I wouldn't have made it to the Kitsune himself. If I had quit while fighting him, I never would have made it to the Oni. If I quit to the Oni, I never would have made it to Chapter 2, and if I had quit with those charges into gunfire, I never would have made it to the Spider. If I quit with the Spider, I wouldn't be in the absolute hell that I am. But if I quit now, I wouldn't learn how to deal with everything the dragon can do, move by move. By not quitting, I learned how to punish him calling for his brother's aid by unsheath striking him. Long as he jumps away from me, that is, or a follow-up strike will likely leave me dead. I learned that trying multiple times in a row is a good way to get yourself shot when he deflects me into his brother's bullet. I learned that dodging the spider shot is pretty reliable, but plenty of times I'd get shot anyway, regardless of the angle. Much more fun when he accidentally shoots his own brother. I always loved that. I learned that I could punish his slow 3-hit combo if I dodged the first hit instead of parrying it. I learned that I hate that the rocket's glare keeps me from seeing his shots coming if he goes behind it, or worse, stands right in it and shoots me even as the explosive goes off. Trust me, game, he does not need any help to be able to shoot me. I learned that I can keep him from kicking the rocket at me if I attack him and then sprint it away so the explosion would go off on him. I learned that the closer I was to the spider, the sooner the rocket would land, so by being further away, I had more time to harass the dragon so he wouldn't go for the kick. But I also learned that even if he failed to get me with the bohia, he could immediately do it again and would often succeed on his second try. No matter what I learned, He always seems to find a loophole to beat me. With how durable the dragon is, I had to ensure nothing was left to chance. I needed to be certain I could parry everything he did so that I could break his block as fast as I could. That would minimize his chances to call for a rocket or open fire on me. I had to make sure I was paying attention when he moved from his rocket to fire on me, whether he had his sword or his polearm. While he preferred his polearm for a faster shot, if he did still have his sword, I'd get shot if I dodged too soon. Still, I preferred that, because that sword shot was much easier to avoid. I also had to be sure I didn't interrupt his call for a rocket when he's too low on health, or we might blade lock, leaving me stuck as the rocket lands right on my head. By the time he started to kick the missiles at me, I had to stay mindful of whether he was moving away from the rocket or not. If he was moving away, get ready to dodge a bullet. If he's not, attack quickly so he can't kick it, or I better start sprinting. The moment that rocket explodes in his face, get ready, as he probably is going to fire at me. Hours passed. Sometimes I'd go down multiple times a minute. Other times it would take a few minutes to kill me once. What is it with these beach duels and being the bane of my existence? Between the eagle and the dragon, I'm going to be scarred forever at such a pretty view. My previous record for longest time spent fighting a boss was 14.5 hours in Jedi Survivor. I had long passed that time fighting the dragon. In the end, my fatal flaw still lay in my inability to only dodge the moment he reached for his gun. Far too often, I'd move too early. I'd rather have died from his gunshot because I was too slow than because I was jumping the gun. It only takes a little to learn the moves. It takes far longer to force my body to act in accordance with what I want it to do, as I unlearn the bad habits for the good ones. But holding steady, I begin to dodge more and more reliably. Bit by bit, at an agonizingly slow pace, I stop dodging too soon. It doesn't mean I'm not shot, but it's a refinement process. Then I refine my mindfulness on whether I should run away from him or not. Or become so worried about him calling another rocket that I keep attacking when I shouldn't. I can't worry about what he will do, I must only be prepared to respond properly to it. More and more often, I'd reach his final phase, and while I lost far too much while that close to victory, I knew victory was a matter of time. Parry everything I can, but if I fail to catch the parry, stick to blocking that combo rather than risk further. Punish his calls for his brother, but not so heavily that he deflects me. Give him a heartbeat to recover from calling his brother so I can safely break his block further without getting deflected. Follow up every 2 heavy attacks with a disarm attack to encourage him to dodge and immediately counterattack me, keeping the flow of combat going at the pace I want it to. Dodge nearly every first strike he throws, and follow up with parrying if possible on every subsequent strike. Once his block is broken, 4 light attacks to maximize damage done. Once the second blade lock occurs, get ready to dodge the first shot after he switches his weapons, and then punish him before he can call for the rocket. Do everything I can to hold myself steady until the right time to dodge, and then rush him for light attacks the moment after he fires. After his third blade lock, get ready for 1 incoming combo, then hurt him, and run away if I have the room. Hopefully an explosion to his face will keep him from switching weapons, making it easier to dodge his follow-up shot. If I don't have the room to run, hit him, and keep hitting him if he's not getting the hint to not go for the rocket. Long as I'm outside the rocket's radius, I can stay close to him, and hopefully he won't go for the quick draw. Thankfully, by the time he decides to spam his pistol, he's using his sword, so I can dodge both shots. Continue to distract him from his rockets, and do everything I can to rein myself in so I don't get too aggressive this close to victory. 1 final rocket interrupt and sprint away, followed by 1 final pistol dodge, and he's mine to finish off. Oh, finally. Not even the final boss, but I did it. Early huzzah? 26 hours, 54 minutes, and 1,233 losses to him alone, I finally have slain the dragon. Still, that's a good 12 hours longer than my last longest boss fight ever, so I'll be remembering him, for the rest of my life. Perhaps I should have quit, but I'm glad I didn't. Chapter 3. The cost of revenge has begun. I thought I've been paying it this whole time, but sure, whatever. By the time I was done with the dragon, I was at 2,863 losses total. If you notice, that isn't 3,713 losses. So there's still quite a bit more cost if I have to pay before this is finished. Let's see how much of that cost the spider will make me pay in a proper 1v1.
I don't want this fight! I don't want this.
Ah, you missed me!
Just want my.
Who decided all these guys need guns? Switching to your secondary is faster than even me trying to pause the game. Good news, he's only going for the gun if I don't stay close to him. And despite the general stench of a sweaty body fighting it out in the dirt, I'd rather that than a bullet to the sternum. The big problem isn't actually the gun. It's the fact that he whips dirt at me. Yeah, I know I can jump over it, but here's the thing. I keep my hand like a claw on the controller, so my index finger always hovers over the circle button to dodge, or is able to switch to the triangle quickly for heavy attack. By the time I read a move as needing to jump over it, or needing to dodge, it's too late, and I'm dead if I haven't responded. Since this is the only move in the whole game that I need to jump over, I'm really not prepared for it. Which is why I stick to dodging. Now here's the thing again. I could put a lot of time and effort into fixing this obviously flawed approach I've been taking. But I think this challenge has pushed me enough with the dragon, and instead I'm going to take advantage of the spider's glaring flaw in the move. If I stay close to him, I can simply dodge to the left of him, and that should avoid the dirt pretty consistently. Spider is extraordinarily fast, and at first I fear I might have walked right into another endless loop of deaths. But it doesn't take long to realize that the spider has very little variety in his moves, and uses a wonderful move that allows me to punish him with a disarm. He actually has two of those, but it takes me quite a while to react properly to the other one. Either way, he's not particularly dangerous outside of whipping the dirt at me and his gun. Well, that, and when he flicks his spear at me, I have a habit of falling for that one. But I realize trying to parry immediately anytime he attacks, and then to dodge once I recognize what's coming at me, solves that problem. Mostly. I thought forcing him to stay with his Yotei was the wise move, since I still worried about that dirt in the face, but it kept not working out. It gives me less chance to hurt him, which means the fight takes longer, which means I sooner or later screw up. Until I realized if I could keep getting him hurt enough to force him into Yotei, maybe I should just let him stick with his sword, as clearly I have those moves ingrained. An hour before, I had almost won if I had been ready for that mud swipe after all. Doing that really makes all the difference, especially with so many chances to disarm stun him, and victory's mine. He had skill and took me down 180 times. But after the dragon, I brushed these defeats off without much consideration. 3,060 losses now as we head into the final mission. I figured at this point, as long as I don't hit 4,000 losses, I'll be okay. 150 losses gone right away to this first large group of guards. Once again, I could have just snuck by, but nope, refused to have that sense. I'm horribly outnumbered, and sure, that's pretty bad, but the real killer is that all these skilled swordsmen know how to use the dirt swipe ability. Who decided to teach them that? It is much harder to dodge to the left of them in a group setting. And the normal man challenge, I could just tank it, as environmental damage didn't one-shot me for some reason, plus only bosses knew to use it. I miss those days. My patience has begun to wear down to a nub, and I realize even if I kill this initial dozen, there's a great deal more patrols between me and the next checkpoint. So, how about no? I don't need to be crazy about things for once. No sneaking either though. Just sprint like a mad woman until I reach that next checkpoint. That works! I don't have the luxury of sprinting past this next large encampment, but if I rush around and kill enough of them before disappearing back into the shadows, I can just make it to the door forward and get through before they stop me. But now no sprinting or sneaking to get past the last group. With so many elites against me, weak as the day I started, I decided to play it as strategically as possible. Run in circles using every throwable blade I could find laying about, and then take advantage of the enemy's sense of honor. Sooner or later, one will always try to call me out for a disarm attack, and the others will back off. That makes it easy to demolish the one calling me out before going back to running and fighting occasionally until it happens again. I lost plenty more before I was able to free Jubei, but the job gets done. That part of the job anyway. Many more losses await me as Jubei and I fight our way to save Oyuki. Even after all this fighting, my timing is very off and I never stop hating that dirt swipe. This is the last big battle after all, where they expect me to have tons of upgrades, and Jubei isn't much help, so of course it's still going to be quite the killing floor. Spearmen aren't normally dangerous, but that doesn't mean they never land strikes. Especially if I don't realize that the fan enthusiasts are nearby acting as their cheerleaders and making them unparryable. 3,350 losses by the time I finally got out of that horrible fortress. Only 10 losses from 300 losses total there. I had the stupid notion that the fortress was going to be my break from the pain. You'd really think optimism would have been stomped out of me by now, but it's too damn addicting. This is it. Lord Saito. Final duel and I'll be free. I don't expect him to go quietly, but whether he likes it or not, he's going. Immediately it becomes apparent that dodge work is not the way to go. If I keep doing that, he's going to switch weapons more often, and I'll die even faster. I may have forgotten most of what the polearm can do, but I'd still like to learn one weapon at a time, please, or this is going to take forever. If I try to dodge beyond the first hit of the combo, I will be punished. Only his very delayed strike should I dodge and then counterattack. Otherwise, I'm going to die. That simplifies things in a way as the whole process becomes learning to land those parries back to back, and once that sinks, it's pretty easy to do. Of course, he will try and switch it up and pull out his big honkin' blade, but I'm reminded that just like with the Oni, I need to keep my distance and I'll have the time I need to respond. His shield stance I'm more than prepared for with all the practice I spent fighting the Undying Samurai, making this the closest I can get to free hits on him, and his Kusarigama, well, I can't punish it easily, but it's nearly as easy to avoid as fighting the Kitsune. The problem is Saito has a very sizable health bar, so he has plenty of opportunities for me to slip up and throw each attempt away. Plus, he's pretty speedy, so poor reflexes can and will be my downfall. On the positive side, I do realize he gives me a great opportunity to hit him twice over when he goes for a large swing strike on me. That's great! I also discovered to my shock and terror that he too wields a gun, but he will only use it if I keep the distance in his polearm stance. That's terrible, but I can deal. Better than the alternative. As long as he sticks to his polearm, his clearly favorite weapon, I have it in hand, and after 205 losses, Saito cheats and does force to damage on me. That gets Jubei to rush to my rescue, but who's coming to his rescue? I can afford to watch him die once, after he watched me die hundreds and hundreds of times. It's only fair. This means Saito thinks I'm finally worthy of his sword, and I was more than a little worried about that. I knew he'd come out swinging with a spirit attack of his own that would be a nightmare to keep up with. I never had to learn it last challenge, as I could interrupt it with a Heavenly Slash, but this time I'd have no such trick. But you know what? It's really not that bad. Sure, it gets me a few times, but the timing on the initial parry is pretty easy to catch. I just gotta parry the moment he moves, parry once more, and then interrupt the whole combo with a disarm strike. Now we're back on even ground. In fact, things might favor me for once. That straightforward blockable sword combo, I've seen it on almost every sword fighter I've encountered. Those kicks? The Undying Samurai loved to do similar, and he certainly loved to do that overhead swirl swing, as did I in the first game. That 3-stab jab? Even if it's a little slower than normal, it's used by almost every swordsman. The jump back and charge parryable strike on repeat? That was the spider's favorite move, as is that very punishable whirl disarm strike. That slow 3-hit combo? Dragon loved to use it, as he also loved that 5-hit water stance combo. Both brothers love that 3-hit speedy combo that's pretty easy to parry. The game has prepared me all along for this duel, and since I bothered to learn for once, I'm psyched for it. Saito only has his spirit attacks to throw me off. I am capable of slowing how quickly he gets that spirit attack by breaking his block, which makes his disarm attempts all the better for me. I can't help but let loose a big old smile whenever he tries for those. His first 2 spirit attacks are the same, and I'm more than ready for that. Mostly. Can't afford to wait a moment or I'll be too slow, but it's not difficult to do. But the fear I had over his spirit attack is actually quite valid. When he's been hurt a decent amount, he will switch it up and go for a new spirit attack, displayed by how low he goes before he charges in. Trying to parry the moment he moves is death, as he slows down slightly to lift his blade up, and that timing change really throws me off. No worries, I just gotta get him back there. Okay, slight worry, as I struggle to catch the blade at the right moment and keep acting too fast. No matter how much I try to slow it down, it is not enough, and I keep blocking too soon. Until finally, I catch that parry, and whoops, there's a second strike, because of course there's a second strike. I got the first parry, I can get the second. If I can ever get back to that combo, that is. Starting to get overconfident with his other moves, and I'm making too many mistakes I should be beyond by now. Finally. But even more strikes keep coming, and of course, he has a delayed 360-degree turn strike to keep me on my toes. Well played, Saito. Well played. What was that anyway? 5 or 6 hits? Nothing a nice deal of practice can't figure out. Okay, so after 5, get ready for the delay. Grand. I can do that, and then he will cease this behavior, right? I really don't want to mess it up this time as he's so close to death, so I gotta get ready for that delay. I succeed, and there's even more strikes with another delay. Still, after 95 losses to this phase, I should call it for the night and come back tomorrow. A sound idea, as exhaustion begets failure, and the game is kind enough to always remember where I am in the fight so I can suspend the duel. That's what it says after all. Only, that's a lie! Sure, the game remembers that I'm in this duel, but it doesn't remember where I'm at, starting the whole fight over again. That's just about my luck. I should have figured. I guess the game really doesn't want me to go. Separation anxiety after being stuck with me for so long. Well, it'll be nice to see, I suppose, if my earlier win over his first phase was a fluke or not. And after 20 losses, I guess not, as I'm back in phase 2. I'm at 3,670 losses by now, only 43 from my final count. Every few losses, I was getting further and further in his relentless combo, more and more consistently. Then I threw in the obligatory forget everything ever and lose to a bunch of combos I shouldn't streak, because I'm me and I can't seem to help myself. Until finally, I land that last delayed parry and follow up with a disarm. 9 strikes? A 9-strike combo? Honestly, pretty fun, and makes me feel like I'm way better than I am when I parry at all. So, thank you for that. Thank you also for only trying it a single time and going back to the easy to parry spirit attack after that. Too bad I mucked this attempt up on such an easy move to parry, but that's also my nature. Gives me a chance to parry that long combo again. Only this time, he does not do me the solid of using that attack only once and challenges me with it once more as the final test of my skills. Saito, buddy, it is locked in. Never should have doubted me. Honestly, after 3,713 losses, I would have doubted me too. Huzzah! Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah! After 76 hours and 35 minutes, I've beaten Ghost of Yotei's normal woman challenge. I hope the wait for more Yotei was worth it. Thanks for the suggestion. I was a mad rat for doing it, but I'm glad I persevered. Thank you all very much for watching. Truly hope you enjoyed the suffering I brought to you here today. If you're curious, yes, after all this, I did go after the God of Duelist because of course I had to try. I wanted to get this long overdue video out though. I'll post the video of my fight with him should I ever win. In 54 minutes, he's beaten me 210 times, so please do not hold your breath. You could be waiting years for me to win. After all of this, I'm off now to rewatch the 2003 Teen Titans. Why? because I like to think I've earned time on a comfort show or two. So never think you need to earn comfort. You don't. Whatever you get up to, long as it's not immoral, I'm rooting for you, friend. You do got this. Persevere, but know when to take breaks. I'll see you later, friends.